Good afternoon. It's a real pleasure to welcome you all to the fourth day of the UAE-Netherlands week. In the past days, we had thought-provoking talks on culture, energy, food security, and the strong bilateral relations between Netherlands and UAE. In today's panel, we will concentrate on entrepreneurship and innovation. The Netherlands is well known for their maritime entrepreneurship during the Dutch Golden Age, with ships in all ports of the world, which led to the Netherlands become the global center for trade and science. However, 4 centuries later, there are some pirates in the international sea who are ready to take over. As the UAE is ranked 4th globally in the latest Global Entrepreneurship Index. The panel today has distinguished speakers from the Netherlands and UAE. We have with us today Saeed Al-Falasi, who is the Executive Director of the Future Platform at the Dubai Future Foundation. Welcome. We have Anoejska Imambaks, who is the Executive Director of the Venture Café Foundation. Welcome. And finally, but not least, Duke Urbanik, Initiator and co-founder of Masters of Scale. I am Seppe, the Chief of Staff at the Anwar Gargash Diplomatic Academy and your moderator for today. Today, we will be discussing the unique role that these speakers have in their respective countries and worldwide, contributing to innovation, entrepreneurship, and science. Duke, Anoejska, Saeed, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here.
Let me immediately start with firing the questions that I have in mind. Saeed, let me start with you. Saeed, the Dubai Future Foundation was established in 2016 with the goal to build a cohesive, innovative ecosystem in Dubai and the UAE. Could you tell us a bit more about that and some of the successes in the last 5 years?
I think by all means we try to consider ourselves as a startup. We haven't been around for a long time, but we're really trying to make strides into really preparing the whole of Dubai as a city and UAE as a country also to be ready for the future. Before we go into the achievements, we'll talk a little bit about why does the Dubai Future Foundation exist? The foundation, like you mentioned, did start in 2016, and our role was mainly to really shape the future of Dubai and to really position Dubai as a leading city for the future. We work very strategically with our partners, whether it's a government, private sector, locally and globally, and not to forget entrepreneurs and startups, to really realize our vision and to further support the city towards innovation. We do play an important role in building capacity for future foresight. We also attempt at embracing disruptive technology to really provide a suitable environment, if you would to say, in this field. We have launched many different initiatives in the last couple of years, namely the strategies for blockchains, the strategy for autonomous vehicles, as well as the 3D building. These are strategies that came out of the Dubai Future Foundation for the city and the different government bodies to implement and to experiment with. We've launched the Dubai Future Lab. It was the first research and development lab in the city. And in the middle of the pandemic, we were able, luckily, to manufacture and design a ventilator when we knew that there will be a shortage of. Dubai Future Accelerator is one of our main programs that we launched here at the Dubai Future Foundation, and it's really about connecting the government entities with the startups and entrepreneurs, not only in UAE but definitely globally. And beginning of the year, we finished our 8th cohort. We've attracted since over 280 startups from almost 40 different countries. 90 of those challenges that the startups have collaborated with the government entities have actually became a real-life pilots project, which resulted in almost 45 of those companies opening their offices in Dubai and creating over 600 jobs locally. So these are important numbers for us because we really wanted to see how we can support entrepreneurs by plugging them in the right way and work with the government departments. And luckily, within the last couple of years, they have signed contracts that are over 150 million dirhams and have received equity funds of over 75 million dirhams as well. So these are really something that I'm proud of, and we've seen how government can actually connect entrepreneurs and startups with the government sector.
Over the past 48 years, we have seen one of the most incredible paces of change. From an enterprising community built on pearl diving to one of the most advanced economies. In Dubai, we believe that global future challenges can be solved through future innovation foresight, through inclusiveness, through collaboration. And this is why the Dubai Future Foundation was created. We connect the venture capitalists, the entrepreneurs, the investors. They span across many sectors agnostically through 3D printing, blockchain, artificial intelligence, and autonomous mobility. We continue to invest in our youth, and we ensure that they are ready with the skills of the future. As a child, I used to play football in those alleys, and it amazes me how things have changed. We're not waiting for the future to happen. We're creating the future today.
Anoejska, like to follow up there on the innovation lab that Saeed already talked about, the venture cafes as well, an innovative platform in Rotterdam where startups, entrepreneurs, students, everybody has, you have an informal space where they all come together, where they can collaborate and innovate. Could you tell a bit more like what the Venture Cafe does exactly, and as well, like what can I expect if I would attend one of the Thursdays gatherings?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So Venture Cafe is a nonprofit foundation. We are a part of a global organization. So we have 6 locations in the USA. We're also located in Tokyo, Japan, Sydney, Australia, Poland, and we were the first one in Europe, starting in Rotterdam. So what we do is basically we're a platform where we connect innovators. So we're talking about startups, students, scale-ups, investors, but also governmental organizations. And we build and help to support the innovation ecosystem in the Netherlands. We do that by offering freely accessible programming, which is based on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and also the city agenda. We have monthly themes, and we organize our popular Thursday gathering, which is our weekly event, where we have more than 350 innovators coming to our physical space. Of course, this is before Corona, before COVID. Now we're totally online, so everything that we do about programming is online. But what we do is organizing workshops, panel discussions, seminars. It is basically a physical space where you can meet like-minded people. So anyone that wants to start a company, anyone that is searching for investment or is thinking about doing business abroad, or even students who are searching for an internship in the world of innovation, they are all welcome. So it's a great place where people connect, and I think that is what we do. We organize serendipity, and that is the power, of course, because you can meet people that you normally wouldn't meet in daily life, but there's like a physical point where you can come. We have certain programs running. So we have an LS&H cafe that is a life science and health cafe. So that means that on that Thursday, it's all about life science and health companies, about the trends, especially about COVID, of course. We have an investment cafe going on where it's all about finance, about connecting startups to investors. We have our talent nights, which is very popular. That's the part that we talk about the next economy jobs, what are the trends, but also how does an HR department of a huge multinational work, and what can startups learn from a huge corporate. So yeah, we have a large programming going on. We had in 2019, so before Corona, we had more than 14,500 visitors. And what makes us special is that we're free. Everyone is welcome. So everyone that sees themselves as an innovator or wants to know more about starting a company or about growing a company is welcome. And that makes we believe in equal access to all facilities to start a company and to grow.
Welcome to Rotterdam, one of the fastest growing innovation ecosystems in the world. From Europe's largest port, large medical cluster, and high-quality educational institutions like Erasmus University and TU Delft close by, Rotterdam is a wonderful place for experimenting, exploring, and learning. Along with being a vibrant city that offers great culture and quality of life, Rotterdam is only 25 minutes away from Schiphol International Airport, one of the busiest in Europe, rating the perfect atmosphere as the gateway to Europe. Venture Café connects money, ideas, and talent. Our flagship initiative, our weekly networking gatherings, connects more than 13,000 innovators every year, consisting of students, entrepreneurs, corporates, investors, and many others.
Venture Café is an invaluable asset to the Rotterdam innovation ecosystem. They're one of the linking pins between its moving parts. As the Rotterdam community continues to develop and expand, our innovation climate is about to enter the next phase of evolution. We actively support this flourishing ecosystem through a platform that connects local and international innovators for the long run.
With the Innovation Visitor Bureau, we create tailor-made tours for students, corporates, and international delegations to explore the city. Each program includes a high-level overview of the ecosystem, as well as opportunities to tour innovative sites and connect with individual innovators within our community. We have the correct contacts to connect delegations to the most relevant key players, and by doing so, we aim to inspire and be a catalyst for collaborations worldwide. Through the Innovation Visitors Bureau, you can meet the money, talent, and ideas that are the backbone to Rotterdam's innovation ecosystem and truly understand how Rotterdam makes it happen.
Thank you, Anoejska. You just filled up my agenda for this Thursday, so thank you for that. Duke, you also played a major role setting up the Venture Café, and now you're the co-founder of Master of Scale, and where you're actually filling in a gap that has to be filled in where to help entrepreneurs to make the next step, how they can scale up their business, getting ready for the next funding round. So could you tell us a bit more, how does this work in practice?
Actually, I can add to Anoejska her story about Venture Café, that one of the things that Venture Café found in the early days is that when you meet each other 4 times, you have some sort of a bond, and then you're going to do something together. And that's why it's on the same date every Thursday on the same time. So you don't have to think about it. You go there and you meet people. And if you meet them 4 times, you're going to do something together. And that happened a lot of times. Well, to Master of Scale, it's a program that I founded when I discovered that in my practice at YesDelft. I'm an entrepreneur resident at YesDelft since 2010. So I talked to a lot of companies, and so also a lot of companies grow. And what happens is when they got out of the programs from the incubator, you get into a sort of a no man's land. Nobody is able to help you because this is very specific for the company itself. So anything that you want to learn is typically for your situation. So you can't just read a book and then scale. You have to do it by the seat of your pants, so to speak. So by feel, by using your network. And that's why we said, okay, let's start a program where we do individual helping people, like companies, scale towards a larger investment round. So there's particularly in Holland, there's a lot of rounds in 200,000, 500,000 euros. But as soon as you want to raise 5 million euros or even more, there's almost nobody that can help you. So what we've done is we collected 30 international serial entrepreneurs, and they go one-on-one in teams of 2 on the company and help them prepare to raise 5 to, and there's one now, 20 million euros. So as a Series A round, prepare them with the planning, with the strategy, also introducing them to investors because we have a huge network of international investors. And most of the companies that we get come from abroad, land in Holland, and then seek an investment abroad again, which is very strange. So they're getting their investment, most of them from Berlin, London, and US, Silicon Valley, New York. And we help them to prepare to get that funding round. And also, if you are faced to an investor, for instance, in the US or in London, they are razor sharp. In 3 minutes, they can completely tear down your pitch deck. So what we do is we tear down their pitch deck before they go to the investor. That's basically what Masters of Scale is doing. And there's now 6 companies in the process of getting this funding. we are actually helping.
And as well, like you all touched already on this before, like with the workshops and with the educational aspect that you have to become an entrepreneur, to become a successful business. And to give you a few examples, Anoejska, you have the venture school program that runs over summer. Duke, you have the master classes, and Saeed, you have the Dubai Future Academy with various trainings. So what's this main focus of these programs? And we have many viewers today. So why should they enroll? Why should they reach out to you afterwards to say like, hey, Saeed, I want to take a course in the Dubai Future Academy. The same for you, Duke and Anoejska. Duke, let me start with you.
Well, we started the master classes. Actually, we called it now the Scaling Readiness Assessment. And it's a masterclass that we do to let people know what exactly a scaling readiness assessment is. So you get a feel if am I ready for such a step? And the scaling readiness assessment, we actually touch on 10 different points of the company, like how's your organization? Do you have a sales strategy to go international? Do you have a marketing strategy to go international? Is your team prepared to go abroad? Are they prepared to relocate? How are you going to set up a partnership? Are you going to set up a subsidiary abroad, or are you going to use agents or distributors? That's in the assessment. What we do is we take a sort of a snapshot of the company in its current state, and then help on the points where they are weak. So the weak spots we're trying to cover, and then we put masters with experience, for instance, in marketing or in funding or in pitching to help them to get ready for that particular round. And what you see is that most of these companies that are scaling, they have a big team. We have now one that is a digital marketing company scaling rapidly. The founder and the CEO is 23 years old, believe it or not. And there's 67 people on board, and they're scaling. And he says, I don't know how to do this because I have no experience. So we put a master next to him, organizing the structure of the company in such a way that they can scale massively in the US, because he wants to go to the US. So that's basically what we do. And these masters actually go one-on-one with them for like 3 to 6 months, one afternoon a week, or sometimes an hour a week, just to help them reflect, get some new ideas, correct if they're going the wrong way.
Anoejska, is this similar to the venture school program that you're running?
It is a little bit similar. So as I mentioned, everything in Venture Café is about sharing knowledge. So next to all the workshops, seminars, we also provide one-on-one coaching or mentorship programs. But summer school is something new. We started that last year, and everyone can enroll. So even if, from which place whatsoever, you can enroll during the summer, follow like full 8 weeks courses on how to start your company. So really at the start of, we're talking about failures, about successes, about how to, which programs to follow, how to present yourself. It even ends with like a pitch night. So we're taking people by the hand and helping them to start a company. And at the end of this summer program, everyone is pitching about their company, where they stand, and what they need. And the nice thing is that it's not only for people that are very young or are students, but also for, I call them corporate refugees, people that are working for a corporate for many years and then think about, okay, you know what, I want to start a company, I want to become a startup. So those people we also guide, and it's nice because it's also building this cohort, it's building a community. They keep in touch with each other, they help each other, and it's within our Venture Cafe community. It's kind of like making sure that there are more connections, and it's really nice.
Thank you, Anoejska. Saeed, I'm following very closely the Instagram account of the Dubai Future Academy with the interesting courses that they are offering. Could you tell us a bit more about the course that they are offering, and if it would be more for government employees, or is it open for everybody?
I think I'm really excited about this dialogue, because it's really a conversation about the two sides of the same coin. Sometimes the Dubai Future Foundation will wear a hat to support the entrepreneurs and really do a lot of the things, similar things to what Duke and Anoejska have been been talking about. And other times we have to wear the other hat, which is the government hat. And we spend a lot of time really, and I mean, in our region, to be quite frank with you, the biggest business opportunity creators are the government departments. And we need to push the government departments to start thinking about how they can utilize technology in different ways. And the minute that they start thinking about, wait a second, I can just, perhaps I can increase my efficiencies by optimizing X technology. And therefore, they're going to start looking for the startups and entrepreneurs that are working within that field. So we try to create that vacuum of pull and create those business opportunities. I remember when we started the academy, we were talking about we're gonna put together courses around future foresight, and some people were saying, "Well, wait a second, isn't that just planning?" There's a complete difference about just planning and scenario building and really unraveling the uncertainties about the future. So the academy has been our building capacity arm for the Dubai Future Foundation. Some of the courses that we really been hosting, been around understanding the foundation of emerging technologies, the foundations of strategic foresight, essentials of blockchain, the foundation of future literacies, horizon scanning, exploring future scenarios. And probably the last one is my favorite. It really enables all the participants to think deeply about their specific sectors and apply the scenario building process and shed more light into the uncertainties about the future in their specific sector. We did start offering these courses to the government employees, but more recently we have opened it up to the private sector as well as the general public. And we've seen how that impacted government employees once they come to our courses, understand the scenario building scenarios, go back to their government department, start applying some of those tools. We've seen new opportunities that came up through that process.
Thanks, Saeed. This actually lead naturally to one of the other aspects that I wanted to discuss today as well. It's like how the government can support this. Saeed already mentioned that a lot of innovation in the UAE is coming from the government itself. So I actually want to see, like, okay, how can governments support this? In the Netherlands, we have the Entrepreneur Action Plan, where they help with the early stage financing and temporary visas. And when I recently talked to Saeed, he mentioned that the Golden Visa program in the UAE, which give long-term residence to innovators, entrepreneurs, and as well the 50-year challenge, where residents, as myself, can submit their innovative ideas and solutions for the country and also for abroad. So my question here is how can the government support innovation, entrepreneurship? How can they promote it? And as well, is this crucial to actually to have an innovative environment? Anoejska, let me start with you.
Yeah, interesting topic, because I myself have a background in public administration, worked for many years at the Ministry of Economic Affairs, so I know my way around in governmental world. But what I noticed when I become an executive director of Venture Café is that a lot of entrepreneurs don't think like that. What is the value of having an embassy in a foreign country? A lot of entrepreneurs wouldn't think about that. They're so busy with, growing their company, making connections, searching for nice leads, ideas, but help from the government is not really something that they would focus on. So what we started at Venture Café is saying, hey, we can host international delegations. So we connected to Foreign Affairs and said, well, whenever there's a delegation coming from the UAE or somewhere else, let us know, and we can connect them to startups. We can tell them something about the innovation ecosystem. We can help startups making connections to these other countries to expand their business. So it's really us reaching out to the government and saying there are so many ways to connect and help entrepreneurs and startups from the Netherlands, but also abroad. And that connection is so valuable. So that is what we invested in. So we have all sorts of programs, and I'm very happy to see that a lot of people now do have an interest in, the government really is helpful. You can call the embassy, the Dutch embassy in and ask them for help. Do you know someone in, for example, Dubai that is working on artificial intelligence, or can you connect me to? And that is the power of government. So I'm actually quite enthusiastic about telling what the government can do. And of course, you also mentioned that we have startup visa programs and a support system, early finance programs. But I'm most enthusiastic about the connections. Once I had to connect a scale-up entrepreneur from the Netherlands. He was searching for a specific person in the UAE. I forgot his name, but it was a CEO of a big company in the logistics world. And he called me and I said, wait, let me connect someone at the embassy. And within 9 minutes, this entrepreneur was connected to that CEO in Dubai. So within 9 minutes. So everyone thinks that the government, is very slowly bureaucratic. It doesn't need to be.
Thank you, Anoejska. Saeed, let me first talk about UAE and then let's go back to the Netherlands with you. So could you tell us a bit more about these, the Golden Visa program and other initiatives of the government, which are very helpful in creating this innovative environment?
I think one of the great things that we've been slowly building and enhancing is what we call Area 2071. It's located at the Emirates Towers. It's an area where we wanted to connect government departments, private sector, as well as the entrepreneurs. You will be surprised. I mean, it's easy. It's sometimes I personally I'm quite passionate about it, and Duke and Anoejska can spend a lot of times building the right companies, making sure that they have the right fund. But unless there is a real valuable business opportunities, that will be sort of difficult. And the space for Area 2071 does create that demand and connectivity between all three parties, and creating and sparks amazing conversations. And through that process, we learned a lot from the entrepreneurs. As you can imagine, the government departments and the biggest private sector that are working with us, like Emirates Airlines and Etisalat being one of the biggest telecommunication companies, it's easy for them to say, I'm going to work with the Microsoft of the world and I'm going to work with the Oracles of the world. Through our process, we opened up that doors to say, you know what, we need to be risky. And the leadership in the country allowed us to be that way. Let's work with the scale-ups. Let's work with the startups. So the shift in mentality within government departments in UAE is quite something to be admired as well. And I think we've been taking a big strides into supporting the startups in terms of ease of doing business. The UAE continues to rank quite highly when it comes to the ease of doing business on global indexes. It's important for us to make sure that the entrepreneurs can have 100% local ownership in their own companies. So these are changes that we didn't expect that it's going to happen, but we feel the demand and we wanted to be aggressive in changing certain regulation that will support them. The Golden Visa has been a godsend because it's not only supporting the entrepreneurs, it's supporting the researchers, the amazing, highly talented students, the doctors, the researchers. So the Golden Visa was one of our initiatives that supported people to really be part of the ecosystem. The Dubai Economic Department have recently launched also the first crowdfunding platform supported by the government as well to support the entrepreneurs and the startups. It's essential that we continue to roll out those regulation changes to support the ecosystem and to create the business opportunities to link up and spark those conversations. And so many times when we had a challenge about energy, and we invite 4 companies to work on that challenge by coming up with an innovative solutions, more often than not, that those startups will have conversations together and they will come up with a product or a solution together. So that's the power of collecting people and having them co-work from the same space.
Thank you, Saeed. Let's fly back over to the Netherlands. Duke, could you contribute here as well to see like what can governments do and what's your experience in that field?
The government should, as Anoejska pointed out, should connect basically and reach out, also use their international connections. I think where it can go wrong is where the government is acting as an investor or start actually being an entrepreneur, because they are not entrepreneurs, they are civil servants. So I think that's the danger area where you're going to skate on thin ice. If you are going to be involved with funding rounds and things like that, steering companies towards a certain direction, I think the government should stay away from that, because the best thing that the government can do is act as a customer. They have a lot of, it's a huge organization basically, it's a super corporation, and they have access to markets that normally a small business cannot access. So they can provide access to markets, for instance, in abroad. And as Anoejska pointed out, the consulates and the embassies, the technical specialists there can help you actually spread your wings. We use a lot of, as Master Scale, we have a lot of contacts with, actually also with Jos Schillings from the Dutch consulate in Abu Dhabi, but also with San Francisco, for instance, and the consulate there, because there's a lot of investors there. They have the direct lines to all these people. So, and that's what the government can do. I mean, they can help you act as a customer and also connect you with other people. Another example is, for instance, the Defense Department is a big customer for a lot of YesDelft startups. So they have a special institute department in the Ministry of Defense that actually connects to startups to test new technologies. For instance, an exoskeleton, or new ways of communication, or new sorts of coatings on ships, things like that. So, and this is what defense can do, because they have a big budget, they have a ton of materials, a lot of people that can actually be involved. So it's a perfect starting ground for startup companies to do business with. So act as a customer and connect. That's basically the two tips that I would.
Thank you, Luke. So if I understand you right, you're saying like a government should be a facilitator and should spread their wings and use their different services they can provide to the innovators and to the startups and so on. Now, as today we are on the platform of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Office of Public and Cultural Diplomacy, and this talk is co-organized with the UAE Embassy in the Netherlands and the Netherlands Embassy in the UAE. So, and I'm quite sure we have a lot of diplomats who are joining the talk today. And when we had earlier talks, you were mentioning as well like a trade mission that was led by Abu Taleb recently. So how would that actually work, you? Before I go back to Saeed and Anoejska, how does it work, these trade missions, and are they actually as useful as we think?
Well, I've been to two trade missions. The first one many years ago, I think 2014 even, and another one with Abu Taleb also as mission leader. And that mission, what I noticed is that the big corporations take all the attention, and that the small companies that were also on board of that mission are actually, well, not really looked after, and they had trouble connecting to other people. So we, when in the summer in I think 2018, I met with somebody from Rotterdam partners and with somebody from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Lotte and Edo. And we actually decided, let's do an innovation mission with only startups and scale-ups. So scale-ups, maximum 50, 60 people on board. They're scale-ups, not corporates. And we asked the Major Abu Taleb to lead that mission again. And that was okay, we got to go ahead. And then we said, okay, let's prepare, because these small companies do not have a department that can prepare a trade mission. Let's help them prepare. So we did a masterclass for this particular trade mission. So where the delegates met each other for the first time, but also got coached by, for instance, Belaid Rettab from the Dubai Chamber. Who are the companies that you're going to visit? What are their needs? How do you address them? And we asked Major Abu Taleb to actually help us doing the social part. How are you connecting? How are you maneuvering? How are you engaging people, like top people from the Dubai commercial departments, but also from the waterboarding. and he gave like a 1 hour fireside chat with me about how are you going to behave during this mission, because you have no clue. And eventually, when we went, this was a major success. The first visit was to the Dubai Water Board, and we lost half of our delegation because they were all in different rooms talking to people and doing deals. And the funny thing is that we also with a sub part of the mission we went to, I think it was in Sharjah, when all of a sudden one of our delegates was already there signing contracts with some of the people from Sharjah, which is crazy. And everybody was enthusiastic about this because it never happens. Normally you get these deals in the making for many, many years and it's the official signing. Now all of a sudden there were deals and there were already deals closed. So this mission really shook everything up. And now you see that every trade mission is led by a masterclass preparing for the mission, which is fine. I mean, that's why we did it. We wanted to show that you could do it differently.
I think that the Dutch are extremely well equipped with so many capabilities to market their mines and their products in the Middle East. Not only in Dubai, the UAE, but also in the entire region. There are a lot of opportunities in there because the many challenges that the country and the region is facing, whether it comes to water, energy and food, are tremendous. And the Dutch have good solutions. I think they will do a good job.
Doing business is about culture. It's about being interested in the other. It's about building trust. And it's not always about signing a contract when you go to such a country in the first trip. So it's about investing, knowing people, learning the culture, and coming back and inviting people. And I think that is the most important ingredients, building a relation. And from a trust and a good relation, you may expect that business will grow.
So is the Future Foundation also working together with other countries? Do you see or how does it work? Do you work together with the organizations within the country, or is it with the other governments? How do you set up these bilateral relations with other countries?
I think in the last couple of years, we've been quite busy making sure that we play that facilitator role, making sure that they introduce the startups to private sector and government sector as well. We've introduced a couple of programs to support our goal in that. One of them is the country in residence. It's essentially a program that gives representatives from participating countries the opportunity to connect with government entities and international organizations, researchers, leaders, and investors. And during the last couple of years, we have signed with multiple countries, including Estonia, South Korea, New Zealand, Latvia, and France. And I think Netherlands is on the way. But these collaborations are quite essential, as a matter of fact, and connecting, making the connection, and being able to address certain needs is essential to everything that we do. More recently, we've created a program that we call the Discovery Program, where we host a number of startups from very specific countries to come and see us in Dubai. And we deep dive into the need of those startups and what are they looking for specifically. And based on that, we design a program for 2 to 3 weeks just to be in Dubai and UAE and explore the ecosystems from Sharjah, from Abu Dhabi, and really making these connections. For the Italians, we had a program called the Global Startup Program. It was their only in-person program that they had for this year. We've hosted 11 companies from different sectors. And let me tell you, by the third week, we had 2 companies that already have received some investments, a company that was finalizing their contracts. 5 of those companies are actually asking us how they can set up their businesses in Dubai. So we made sure that we designed that program specifically for them. And it wasn't very generic and very vanilla-like. but it was very specific because we're more about the impact, and that's quite important for us to deliver that impact for these startups.
Thanks, Saeed. Anoejska, in the introduction, you already mentioned that that you have locations at different places in the world. So is this really important that you have a presence in the other country? And how do you work together with the different outlets in the different countries?
Good question. Yeah. So the thing is, basically, what we do is building bridges, right? It's all about relationships. Also, with those trade missions or hosting delegations that are coming in, it's about putting people together, and they create a relationship. And even if they wouldn't sign a contract at that moment, they would know how to find each other. So sometimes we hear about nice stories that a year from now that someone met each other at a online session at Venture Café, or it was a trade mission or a delegation, and then they are collaborating on something. So it's also a little bit on long term. It's not always the short wins. And then back to your question, I think that the power of a global community is that there are no borders anymore. And especially when you look at, of course, this period now with COVID-19, is that everything is now online. So we created this Thursday gathering, which is called Innovation Bridges, that we did together with other cities, other Venture Cafe cities, where we just co-created a program. And then you have people from Tokyo, online talking about specific problems or wishes, startups that are pitching. And then on the other side, you have investors from Poland or Sydney watching. And it's basically, not thinking about borders, but more thinking in entrepreneurship, in growing, in scaling. And again, putting like-minded people together, it creates a specific magic. Especially when you put people together that wouldn't meet each other in normal life. So, and I think that using technology now is very interesting, and you can co-create programs in order to, we don't have any physical trade missions now, but you can still provide people those interesting contacts. So yeah, I think it's powerful to be part of a global community. Yes.
Thank you, Anoejska. Now, this global community came to a sudden stop a year and a half ago, and each panel that you're in, we always need to talk about COVID-19. So I'm not going to skip it this time. So we're going to ask you specifically with the COVID-19 and with the pandemic, would you say that this actually set us back in time, meaning that we're going to have some delays in innovation, entrepreneurship? Or do you think it's actually the other way around, that this actually sparked innovation, that new ideas came up because we had to come up with better solutions for the problems that we're dealing with? Saeed, let me start with you.
I think it was quite interesting that you said that. I think by all means, I think it's really accelerated our innovation in at least in Dubai and UAE. One of our programs, the Dubai Future Accelerator program, it was in-person physical cohort where people travel from across the world just to be with us for 9 weeks to experiment and pilot new projects. And having the COVID is probably not the best of situations, but we realized really quickly that it was really a mental block for us. This still can be done virtually. We still can have spark conversations and have people really come up to an understanding of how they can actually launch new technologies during the time. And I think, and if anything, like I said, it's really accelerated everything. I am a person that really hates driving, so spending hours to go from one meeting to another is probably not the best use of my time. So definitely being online and being able to conduct those meetings, making connections is essential, and it made it really easy for us. We've created an application that is specifically just for us. I wouldn't call it a LinkedIn sort of application, but something that is really very specific for us. It's called Area 2071. It allows all of our alumni and startups that worked with us in the past to be signed up and logged in. They're able to have group chats and communicate and really find out about what is happening on their other side. And it's quite powerful to see those communications are happening. But definitely, I mean, from a Dubai Future Foundation, we wanted to make sure that we launched a challenge around our initiative, the 1 Million Arab Coders. We launched a very specific COVID-19 hackathon. This is to engage the Arab coders from around the world, just to develop innovative solutions to challenge the challenges that emerged because of COVID-19. And we received a lot of amazing ideas. And again, we, as a Dubai Future Foundation and through the Future Lab, we never thought our aim was only robotics, and we never thought that we're going to start making ventilators. So within 3 short months, we were able to design and launch our own version of a ventilator. But the need for it arose. The last thing that I want to sort of touch on is also our research arm, the Dubai Future Research. We wanted to make sure that we publish forward-thinking reports about how are we actually conducting ourselves after COVID-19, and how we are going to enable the members of the society, the businesses, the government officials. So a lot of these published papers really focus on well-being, focus on health, focused on trade, focus on retail, really sort of shape the mind into what could potentially happen next and how can we be ready for it. So those published reports are available online, and it really sort of sets apart that, again, we never thought we were going to write reports about that, but eventually we had to, and it was well received and really appreciated as well from our ecosystem.
Thank you, Saeed. Anoejska, you said in the beginning that now the Venture Café is all virtual. So it means you with COVID you couldn't meet in person anymore. So would you say that you see now, because it was all virtual, that there was even more innovation? There was like even more people coming up with new ideas, working together, or do you think it's still crucial the in-person contact to create a new business? To come up with innovative ideas?
I do have to agree with Saeed. COVID-19 accelerated everything, basically. So successes, opportunities, failures, basically everything in life. I do have to say, in-person gatherings, that's the best thing ever. So having a Thursday gathering, a space filled with 300 people, like the energy, the sound, people talking, glasses, that gives a specific vibe. Sometimes when I try to explain Venture Café, like a Thursday gathering to someone, I always say, just come and visit us, because I cannot tell you, like, I can explain in words, but the feeling that you have inside, that is the magic. So yes, I want to go back to in person, but I do have to say that, so our headquarters is based in Boston, Cambridge. So on March 5th, we got a call saying that, okay, the situation is going very bad with COVID-19. We want you to close the doors, because we are, of course, open to everyone, and we're free. It is kind of, it's going to be a hazard. It could be a potential hazard to open a Venture Café on a Thursday. So, okay, so we were the first organization in Rotterdam that closed the doors. Everyone was like, yeah, it's kind of a bit overreacting, maybe. Should you do this? But okay, safety first. So, but a week after, it was a total lockdown of the country. So we were, in that week, we organized a online platform from scratch, because we never used to need it. We came up with this online platform that's is basically a sort of simulation of our cafe area. So we tried to make it a 2D, 3D kind of cafe online to host all these sessions online. So yes, it accelerated a lot of things that we were used to think about and talk about, but it wasn't really necessary, right? Why would you do something online if in person is better, etc.? But now we're hybrid. So hybrid is new. So it's looking forward to having in-person gatherings, but it's also thinking about, hey, this online is, again, crossing borders. It's also giving people that normally don't have time, maybe have kids or are not able to come to an in-person gathering, to give them also access. So it's even creating more equal access to come to a Thursday gathering online and still meet, share knowledge, connect to people. So coming back to your question, yeah, I think it accelerated a lot of innovation. It accelerated a lot of ideas that we had. Of course, the reason is it's of course COVID-19. We lost a lot of lives and etc. But it's all about resiliency, right? And I think resiliency is key as an entrepreneur, but also as an organization. So if the world changes, you have to move forward to participate, keep participating.
Thank you, Anoejska. Duke, I think that was also a keyword in your business, resilience in the last year and a half. So would you say that in this time period, companies were more eager to scale up, to actually to explore more their boundaries? Or would you say that what happened was that they were all more focused on the key business that they had and they go into survival mode?
I think the whole startup scale-up world basically split in two. The one half is, or half, maybe less than half, is actually going into sleep mode, like a hybrid, completely off the market, and then just sit it out and then start it up again. And the other half is accelerating, actually, because it's also giving opportunities. I think the for us, similar as Venture Café, for us it was initially a small Dutch-oriented group of serial entrepreneurs. Now with COVID, we had to lock down, go digital. When going digital, all of a sudden we could hook on to like serial entrepreneurs in the US, in Singapore, in Brussels, in Portugal, which means that all of a sudden you have an international organization. If COVID wouldn't have happened, we wouldn't be where we are now. That's for sure in our situation. If I look at the companies that we actually support, and also if you look at what happened, for instance, with the pharmaceutical, the vaccine development, yes, the technology was developed already for like 10 or 15 years, but the acceleration of implementation of this is incredibly fast because the governments changed their attitude, the companies changed their attitude, and we are also now implementing that same routines. And for instance, there's a new startup and is developing an airplane on electricity, like a completely electric airplane with swappable batteries, and then in a delta wing shape. That's the Technical University's project to have a delta wing, so like a flying wing, and then on battery power. Well, what you can do is do exactly what the pharmaceuticals did, incorporate the government certifying body into the design process. So not just build the plane, have it tested by the government, and say, no, this is wrong, you have to change. No, from the design, from the first renderings and drawings, you already go into the certification mode, which means that all of a sudden this 10-year development time is being shrunk into 5-year development time, or maybe less even. That's kind of stuff that happens during this because of this crisis, actually. And yes, it's a dramatic. I have a very poor immune system, so I was very much in danger to actually, if I would have got it, I would probably died. So in March the 6th, I went like completely off the scale. I went into my house in the north, and I just stayed there. I've met in the last 1.5 years one person in person. But I'm a serendipity man myself. I mean, my contacts, my network are built by meeting somebody, just bumping into somebody. And that's what Venture Café is all about. You bump into persons. And it's what Anoejska described, you cannot describe it. It is a feeling, you should be there. It's definitely something that you have to put on your agenda when you go to Rotterdam or any of the other countries that Venture Café is in.
Thanks, Duke. Now, when you were talking about the plane and so on, it really made me linking it with the Future Foundation, and Saeed was mentioning in the beginning the ventilator. Saeed, could you tell a bit more? What was the story? What was the thinking about this, and how long did it take you from scratch to actually to develop this product?
In the middle of the pandemic, we understood right away with borders are being closed, you have to have a sense of security. A lot of the time people talk about food security, but then it's all about health security as well for us as a nation. And we realized right away, I mean, with the borders closed, we should be able to create something locally in case there's a big demand that would potentially sparks out of it. And it really took us literally 3 months from design to really having a product at hand that is tested, awaiting certification. So that was quite exciting for us because none of the people that were in the lab have ever worked with a ventilator. It was a collective effort of the need of we need to push something like that out, and really getting the great minds working together can really achieve amazing things. And the ventilator was something that we are really proud of. and it's a message across the Dubai Future Foundation and other government departments that really, even if you have to leave the path that you've always been walking to and try something different, you put your mind to it, you will definitely achieve it. And that was something exciting for us to do. And the ventilator, it was an exercise by us to make sure something that happens. And now we got full buy-in from the Ministry of Health, have asked us to produce a number of that. So a lot of research and development going to go into not only creating and designing new ones, but also something that is for the long run in terms of security for the nation as well.
Thank you, Saeed. As we're almost getting close to our deadline of 4 o'clock, I just want to ask you all one question that I always would like to hear from innovative thinkers as all of you three. It's like, could you share with us one of these key lessons or maybe an educational failure that you went through to your career, to your path becoming an innovator, entrepreneur, where you really learned from and you would like to share with the viewers today? Let me start with you, Duke.
I think my lesson learned was that never give up. That's one thing. And you also have to see the opportunity. So be open for different thinking, for contrary thinking, because you have to see innovation is chaos. Like innovation is a result of chaos. So that's the reason why if there's chaos, try to find this innovation in there. So if things go really out of hand, there is an opportunity to innovate, and that is almost applicable to everything. So that's my lesson. I'm always on the watch out for new ideas and see if this could be something that you could put into the market through a startup or through my own initiatives or whatever. And if you look at the for instance, and be open to ideas. One example. There's a startup in Delft that has a sensor, made a small microneedle sensor to measure blood glucose levels. And I asked him in March last year, so at the beginning of the COVID, could you also see something like COVID in the results of their measurements? Yeah, you could see the antibodies being created. So why don't you change your sensor from blood glucose sensoring to antibody sensing, and then every hospital can use it, because you can, in a very early stage, see that somebody is infected before himself is infectious to others. And so that's one of the things you have to have an open mind for these things.
Thank you. Anoejska?
I'm also an entrepreneur myself, so it's kind of like all mixed together. I think that I mentioned it before, but I think equal access to all facilities, if you're thinking about starting a company, is for me very important. And equal access it sounds very easy, but we live in a world, and I will, take Rotterdam as an example. It is one big community, but then again, there are so many differences. There's this bridge between North and South. And sometimes we have not only international delegations coming to Venture Café, but also schools, primary schools. I'm talking about kids from the age of 9, 10. They came with a school bus to Venture Café, and I show them the world of innovation. I tell them about, having a headquarters in the USA. We have something like startups making robots. The whole design of our center where we are located is very futuristic already. And when I ask those kids, like, what do you want to become when you grow up? A little girl said to me she wants to become an architect. I'm like, oh, wow. So look outside. There are many buildings in Rotterdam. Which one is your favorite? And she says, well, this is my first time crossing the bridge. And I have to say, this city is not big. It's like 600,000 people living here, and it's divided by this bridge. But I felt that. I was like, wow. And she looked at me and she said, wow, and maybe I want to become a director like you. And it's also about role models. It's about what I like is, there should be equal access, but we're not living in an ideal world. And I'm happy that Venture Café can build those bridges between people, between communities, between countries. And I think not everyone has to become an entrepreneur, don't get me wrong, but an entrepreneurial mindset is for life. That makes you already resilient, resilient in your private life, resilient in your work life. And again, I think dreaming, having dreams, and being inspired is key. If you're young, if you're a child, if you're older, if you're a corporate refugee, or having dreams is so important, and getting that inspiration continuously. And I'm happy to work at an organization at Venture Café that we're talking about those. People sometimes say, "Oh, that is like it's a little bit soft." It's not hardware; it's like software. But that is so important. We're all humans. So I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot. But key lessons, I have a lot, but let's keep it with that.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well said.
Yeah. Thank you, Anoejska. This is the goal of the panel, to talk a lot. So I don't have an issue with it. Saeed, for the final word for you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wish that you continue talking anyways. I think that's inspirational to all of us. But quite frankly, I think it's something that we learned in Dubai, I think, overall through the leadership and then the country overall, is that you really have to be agile. You have to see the opportunities. You have to be in the right mindset. You really have to be resilient. We are a nation that we built on experimenting and testing. So you have to be really resilient in terms of, I'm going to try it one time, I'm going to try it a second time. It's going to hit somewhere at the end of the day. So it's really important to be resilient to everything that is happening around us. But there is one thing that really we shouldn't be forgetting, is really the human connection. At the end of the day, unless I speak to Anoejska or get back to Duke on something or consult with him on a matter that's keeping me awake at night, those human connection really is really what makes us better. When I look at all the pictures of Dubai, and I want to see, well, who are these people that built Dubai as a city? And I look at the picture, and you know what? In that picture, even though it's black and white, but I see all sort of people are in that picture, right? It's somebody from India, somebody from UAE, a European gentleman, but those people created who we are today, and through the collaborations and international connections, it made us who we are today. That's quite essential that we continue to take that forward.
Thank you, Saeed. I can see we're going over time, so I would like to thank you all for this interesting panel, and I agree with Saeed, Anoejska, and you that we would love to continue talking on this, and I'm very happy that you shared your experiences. Also the experience of your country and so on, what they are doing on innovation and entrepreneurship. Also, I wrote down some lessons that I learned from the panel. So clearly what I wrote down is have an open mind, be a dreamer, be agile, be human, and give each other equal access. So I thank you a lot for this, and as well to prompt the innovation spirit in myself, and for sure also for the people who are watching today. I would like to thank as well the Office of Public and Culture Diplomacy to provide this forum to discuss this, as well the UAE Embassy in Netherlands and the Netherlands Embassy in UAE for joining forces and come up with a creative idea of developing a UAE-Netherlands week, which I'm really enjoying until now, and I'm looking forward to the upcoming sessions. So once again, thank you to the watchers to joining. Thank you especially to our panelists for this interesting discussion. And I hope that in a few weeks, months, years, we can see that the UAE-Netherlands Week really provided a platform for people from the Netherlands to invest in the UAE and the other way around, and that the creative solutions will come from the UAE and Netherlands, and that both countries will step up even higher on the ranking on innovation and entrepreneurship. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.